Hey everybody, happy to see everybody virtually here. As Judy and I and Joe were talking, we really wish that we could all be in person, and one day again we will be, I'm sure. So if you hadn't already, and Judy, I assume that you'll drop that link in the chat for anybody who wants to take a quick survey to maybe win a Galaxy tablet at the end of this session. And I will go ahead and jump right into this session. So we are looking at purchasing, promotion, and public library. So this is just kind of the story of how Spring Branch has been using ebooks and audiobooks from Overdrive to help support our students, both before the pandemic and especially now and moving forward. So this is just a quick little snapshot of Spring Branch ISD. So we're a district of about 35,000 students. We have 39 campuses plus some pre-K centers, and 4 of those are comprehensive high schools. So in the last 30 days, we've had about 25,000 checkouts and 5,000 books on hold. So Joe, I need to make a purchase pretty soon to reduce that number of holds. We tend to hit our high checkout numbers on weekdays, as you can see here. And our kiddos have read about 16,000 hours in the last month. And they tend to spend about half an hour, a little over half an hour each time they get onto Sora when they're reading their ebooks. And when I took this screenshot initially, we were getting kids reading about 50 minutes a day, and that was over the Christmas break. So we're actually getting more reading when the kids are going on break, which I love. But there's still, even during the typical school week, they're averaging over 30 minutes per day using Overdrive. And this, the only reason that I included this really was just as a way to maybe promote the books that your kiddos are reading. So by checkouts and then by time read, this is just kind of fun to share with the community to let them know what the students are reading. And this is kind of our trends year over year. So we have about, 125,000 users our checkouts this past up to right now from August, and it looks like it's going to continue to increase. So we're just going to continue promoting the way that we have been and look for additional usage out of that. So there are a bunch of purchasing models, and it can be a little bit confusing when you get started. I know that it took me a little bit of effort to kind of figure out, and working with Joe, our sales consultant, to figure out the best ways for us to be able to purchase and what works best for our different needs. So Overdrive's librarians are always creating new lists. This is just a screenshot of their marketing area. So each one of these will take you to another list. So for instance, we've got the seasonal. So this was early winter. Each one of these is going to be just a suggested list of books that may or may not be what you're looking for, but they're curated by the librarians who work at Overdrive. And this one, I did the screenshot a little while back, and already they've updated it since then. So it's already got some newer content than what you're seeing here. So in my district, we have ebooks. My budget for the district is typically used for ebooks. The campuses tend to have their own budgets that are primarily used for print books, although we are starting to get some of our campuses purchasing ebooks for their own individual campuses, and we'll talk about that in a second. But because I'm doing the bulk of the purchasing for ebooks that are used across the district, most of the time I'm purchasing the one copy, one user. It tends to be our Advantage accounts, so the individual campus accounts that are purchasing simultaneous use. Although we're looking at doing some simultaneous use for our summer reading books. And the ELA department tends to be the ones that are using the class set. So this would be just be a digital version of what they may have in the past purchased as physical copies. So this is where it can kind of get a little bit confusing, especially when you're trying to explain when you're pitching for a budget. So I had to do a whole presentation for our senior staff to explain to them that one copy, one user is the most similar to a physical book. You buy it one time and you own it forever. And then metered access is more like a book that it checks out several times, and then by the time that the 20th kid has checked that book out, it's starting to fall apart. So you have to buy it again. That's kind of the analogy that I did when I was purchasing, or when I was trying to pitch for additional funds for getting more ebooks for our district. So if we wanted to look at maybe a couple of examples. So this Twilight book, the one copy, one user will cost you about $60 if you want to own it forever. Or you can get the metered access. So it's, you know, as many students as can in a year can check this book out. And then at 12 months, it's going to expire. So you'd need to either buy it again, or maybe that one's fallen out of popularity and you don't want to buy it again. And then if you look at the Heir of Fire, so that one copy, one user, you'll own it forever. It's just about double the cost of what a hardback book would cost you, but you own it forever and ever. And so when you're choosing your lending model, you've got to kind of think about what is the end user going to be doing with this? So like for professional development, we want everybody to be able to access it at one time, but more than likely that's going to be a title that we're going to use one time, and then we'll move on from that and probably not use that as a PD book again. So I wouldn't mind if that would be a metered access copy, or if it's simultaneous use, we might have it for a short period of time and then it expires and we don't have it again, but that's all right because we've done that book study, we're ready to move on. Okay, and so the Advantage accounts, so again, I purchase for the district, so anything that I buy using my district funds is going to be available at every campus in our district. Each of the campuses has the option of starting an Advantage account. So kind of think of it like the public library has the central branch. So that would be all of my ebooks and audiobooks. And then each of the different campuses, they've got their specific content that maybe they've got a different demographic. So in our district, we've got really different demographics from campus to campus. So that impacts the way that the librarian might want to purchase for their school. The other thing that we found is some of our campuses will do a really big deal with like the Bluebonnets. And so they want many, many copies of that. But then I've got other campuses where they're doing a whole different kind of reading promotion throughout the year. They don't focus on the Bluebonnets. So I'm not going to buy a ton of copies. I'll get one of all of the Bluebonnets at least. But then that campus can go in and purchase bunches of additional copies of that particular, whatever it is that they're doing, whether it's a book contest or reading incentive or whatever the case may be. They've got the flexibility to purchase for what makes sense for their students. The other advantage with the specific campus-specific Advantage accounts is you've got the ability for, say, the ELA department to put in funds to be able to purchase class sets. So they're only available for the students at that specific school. And you don't have to worry about them being checked out to another campus. Other students, you've got them just for your specific students. We have one of our campuses that's really started running with this. She does title assignments so that she's got an entire book club that's reading this one book, and the kiddo, it just shows up in their account. they're reading it, and then at a certain point, it just disappears off their account. So it's nothing where they have to go in and check it out. It's just assigned to them, and then they read it, and then it pops off of their account.
Lisa, I have a few questions here if you have a
Sure.
second to stop and
You bet.
answer a few.
Mhm.
One of them is just, are your campuses one-to-one with devices?
Yes, so our secondary campuses have been one-to-one for the last probably coming up on 3 years now. Once we got started with this school year, our elementary campuses also went one-to-one. So we have both face-to-face kids and students learning from home, although district-wide, we're at about 65% back in person. But any of the students who are working from home have a device, and we've sent them home with a hotspot. So any kid anywhere in the district has access to these books 24/7.
And you say you provide them with devices, they were asking, are there their own devices or are they school issued devices?
Yeah, so we actually prefer to issue a school device to them, even for the kiddos who are in person, just for connectivity's sake and ease of fixing issues. The district prefers that they use, for our secondary kiddos, they're using Chromebooks, just to make sure that it's as simple as possible. If they get booted off the network, there's a consistent way to let them know this is how you're going to get back on the Wi-Fi. This is the process if you can't restart your computer. We do have a few kiddos that will bring their own device, but for the most part, I would say 95% of the students have a device that's been issued by the district.
Great. And then the last one was just, can you share your pitch for getting more money for books?
But yes, and I guess it's been pretty successful because I have been able to add to my budget over the last 2 years now. And it really takes kind of walking the senior staff through what are the advantages of ebooks and audiobooks, letting them know that even in pandemic times, I can have every student in the entire district reading at any time of day. If they're sent home because they have to quarantine, they still have books. I don't have to worry about, before they leave, I need to run them over to the library and have them check out physical copies of books. Or if they get sent home and they can't come back for a while, they finish those physical books, that's all right, because they can still go in and check out new audiobooks and ebooks. There was definitely a lot of resistance initially to the idea of ebooks because it's like they're not real books. So a lot of it is just kind of, I don't want to say nagging them, but you don't stop talking about it. Anytime you have an opportunity to, if they say, hey, we've got a little bit of extra money, hey, I'd love to spend that on some ebooks. Anytime there was a discussion of there might be some extra money, I was always in there saying, hey, it'd be great if we could buy some additional ebooks. And I would show them the statistics. So those stats that I showed at the very beginning, those are the same things that I use when I say to them, last year we had 50,000 books checked out. Now we're at 100,000. Actually, I think it was a bigger jump than that. It was like a 229% jump. So to be able to accommodate those additional new readers, I need more money so that I can buy more books. It's like this never ending cycle. So the more money that you give me, the more books I'm going to get, the more kids I'm going to get reading, and then the more money I'm going to ask from you. It's kind of like Shawshank Redemption, where Andy Dufresne, he gets his little $500 for his library, and that doesn't stop him. He just starts asking for more money. That's me and ebooks. So
I love that. And I actually skipped one question, Deanne. Thank you for reminding me. It was, do you mostly curate your own list, or do you order, or do you mostly use curated lists, or do you order your own titles?
That is a really great question, and I was going to get to that in just a second. So let me show you a couple of things that I use for promotion.
Okay, I'll let you keep going.
No, that's okay. It's great that you're wondering about that, because I love talking about that. And for me, collection development is one of my favorite things to do, but I know that that's not everybody's favorite thing to do. So there are ways that you can make it happen without necessarily having to spend all day, every day, coming up with your own lists. So one of my favorite things about the Sora app is all the little badges that students can earn. Now the downside of it, of course, is occasionally you'll get a kid who does what's called churning. I discovered this when, and Joe might remember it. There was the kiddo who locked himself out of being able to check out new books because he was trying to earn all of the badges. And so he was checking out books and turning them in and checking out and seeing what he could earn as far as badges. And we had to do some little finagling on the back end so that he'd be able to check out some new books. But the kids really do tend to love the badges and being able to show off. And you can even do a leaderboard within the classroom. So the kiddos, as they're earning badges, you're just checking it off, and it puts a little bit of a competition. Not that they're actually going to earn anything from it, because we all know extrinsic rewards tend not to work, but this is just a little bit of healthy competition. And then getting physical. So one of the ways to promote, because your ebook collection in pre-COVID times, in face-to-face times, your ebook collection can kind of be invisible. So having little QR codes on the shelf, like right next to some of your most popular titles, a QR code that takes them into your ebook reader and brings them right to that book. There's another way to bring a physical aspect of it into your ebook collection. And this is something that I loved. Renee Dyer in Weslaco, her district put up little QR codes. So each one of these is a book, and the QR code will take a kiddo to that specific book. So they're on the bus going to school or going home, and they can check out an ebook. I absolutely love that. I'd love to roll that out for Spring Branch. We'll see if I can make that happen. Okay, and so when we're talking about the curated collections, oh, my bad. I didn't mean to click on that. Sorry, friends. Let me click to my next slide, which is what I had intended to do. Okay, so once they're in the app, they've got these curated collections. So this is an easy way to give the kids something new to see, every week or so. And Overdrive has really simplified the process for that. So these curated lists that we looked at earlier, yes, that's a great way for you to be able to make purchases, but you can also use that for collection development. So what I would do on this one would be, say I clicked on this diverse reading, and it'll take me to a list for Read Woke. Okay, so you can see here, this gives me 166 titles that I might want to add to my collection because I'm in this one copy, one user. Okay, so what I'm going to do instead of ordering books here is I highlight this little section here that says one copy, one user, and metered access, and I replace it with curate. So capital C, curate, and you'll notice, so we had 166 titles that were available for purchase in this curated list that one of the Overdrive librarians built. And I have 84 of those titles. When I switch it over to curate, I can see 84 titles that we own in my district. And so what I can do from that is add them into a new collection. So that lets me instantly build a collection based on books that I already have in my collection and using the pre-populated collections that the Overdrive librarians are always working on. So in seconds, I've got a brand new collection, and this is what the kids see on the user end. So they'll see this curated collection. They can expand it to see all of them. And I can do that as often as I want to, basically, as often as the Overdrive librarians are updating those curated collection development lists. That's as often as I can go in. I will admit that I don't do this as often as I should. I need to probably set up a calendar reminder so that I can go in and make changes to this at least once every 2 weeks, but really ideally I'd like to be changing this every week so that the kids have a reason to come back and see maybe hidden gems or seasonal things. And they're always updating that. That's one of the things that I absolutely love about the back end of the Overdrive marketplace.
We had a request to show that the slide before again, if you could.
Okay, so were we looking at this? All right, so, and we can certainly drop the link to this presentation in the chat if there's anybody who is interested in, you know, kind of going back in and doing those. So I've got that.
Yep, and I'll be sure to share a copy of the presentation with everybody after the event. If you put your email in for the Galaxy Tablet raffle, I'll send you the info.
Awesome. So from the one copy, one user, change it over to curate. And then all I'm doing is if I wanted to add that whole page, I do select this page or select all results. And then over here, if I've got a collection already built, great. If I don't, I just click on that create collection. And from right there, that is allowing me to create that collection that then becomes the curated collection. Okay, so another way that we're trying to get the word out beyond just the school to the community at large is through Twitter, through Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever it is that's your social media of choice. Our librarians are using, and in all of these that you'll see, these are things that are little images that are created from Overdrive. So I'm a big fan of not reinventing the wheel. So anytime there's something that we can grab, then we're going to use that. So there are little themed graphics that you can use. So each time another theme week or a month comes up, there's going to be something that you can grab and promote on social media. But if you don't have time to create your own new quotes, that's all right. Tweets, you can always retweet. So following the Sora app Twitter handle is a great way to be able to just quickly retweet what you see and have new content and remind people that you've got ebooks and audiobooks available 24 hours a day. So all of these are better than anything that I could create on my own. This is available from, if you go out from the marketplace, you're going to go into the resources, and all of these are constantly changing. They're always adding in new, different visuals that you can use. And they're great, not just for social media, but if you're sending out an email to your staff, just having a little graphic in there as a quick reminder. Hey, don't forget, we've got ebooks. If your kiddos are going home and they're, disconnected, have them grab an ebook on Sora, grab an audiobook. One of my absolute favorite things to promote is the connection with our local public library. I think this is something that's available through most public library systems, and our connection with Harris County Public Library, they are thrilled that we're helping them increase their circulation stats by having a connection for all 35,000 of our students instantly through the Sora app. So they're already using the Sora app. It's super easy to connect. And I'm a huge fan of free. So this is a way that even if I wasn't getting increases in my own budget for ebooks, this is a way for me to connect my students to thousands and thousands more ebooks at no cost to our district. So it's super simple for the kiddos to connect. All they're doing is clicking that little context menu, which is the little hamburger menu in the upper right-hand corner, and they're clicking on that add a library. And for your public library system, you're clicking, type it out, click this is my library. And now they're going to be able to see the collection from your local public library. The students, depending on their level, are only going to be able to see the books that are appropriate for their specific levels. So your elementary kiddos are only going to be able to see books that are tagged as juvenile within the public library system. So you shouldn't have any worries about them going in and seeing, Twilight in their little first graders. It's preset so that they can't see anything that's outside of their level. So training, making sure that you've got all of your teachers on board. I'm looking at it, of course, from a district perspective, but even at the campus perspective, making sure that your students, your staff, and your community knows about Sora so that they can, or your ebooks. If you're not using Sora, that just happens to be what we chose as our ebook platform. But whatever is your platform of choice, the more training that you can do, the more chance there is that your kiddos are going to start reading, and it starts feeding that cycle of, I need to buy more books because my kids are reading so many books. I, of course, always start with the librarians, because where else would you start? We're the best place to start. Do invite the administrators, though. See if you can get the campus principals sitting in on a session so that they're aware of it as well. If you've got directors at the district level that will sit in, your counselors, there's so many different people who can really benefit from knowing what the ebooks and audiobooks have to offer for our students. So our special ed teachers, there are so many resources for the students who may need that dyslexic font, or maybe they need that high contrast background. So when you're in a specific book, you've got the ability to change the reading settings, including accessibility sizes, the high contrast backgrounds, different lighting. All of those are specifically helpful for any of the students who may need that as a part of their IEP. And sometimes the kiddos are just going to find that reading with that dyslexic font helps them, even if they're not identified dyslexic. So your ELA teachers, they should love having access to all the annotation features that come within the ebooks and audiobooks. Not so much audiobooks, but the ebooks, you have the ability to do annotations within the book and then share it with the teachers. So pressing and holding brings up a context menu. You can get a definition. If you press and drag, you can highlight, a passage and add notes, or a sentence. You could have them highlight in different colors for different literary devices. And then from the home screen, they can see all of their recently defined words and any of the notes and highlights. And you'll notice the notes come out in the color that you've set, so it can, follow along with whatever were the literary devices. Those colors show up in your notes. And of course, they can download those, export them, and share with the teachers so that you've got the ability for students to share what they're doing within those books back to the teacher. Okay. So in the spirit of not reinventing the wheel, when it comes to training, there's a lot of stuff that's already pre-built into the Resource Center and Overdrive. If you're doing district level training, if you're doing campus training, and even if you are starting from scratch and want to roll out to students, there's some pre-made templates that you can use, or the little quick videos. I tend to put the quick videos at the beginning of school just as a reminder of, this is how we can access it. Here's why you would want to use this. And then, a lot of it comes down to when you get occasionally you get the parents who say, well, I think my kids have had enough screen time. I really don't want them playing anymore on the devices. A lot of that is just kind of reminding them that the ebooks have value. And if you get to the point where you can't have on-campus checkout, this is the way to allow them to keep reading quality material and not just, whatever they find on the internet. This is your curated content. This is one of my favorite things to do when I'm introducing Sora, is the Scavenger Hunt. The students have really loved doing the scavenger hunt and see which one of them can get to the end fastest. And then there's the advanced level scavenger hunt. Even my little first graders were trying to do those. It was super cute. They get very competitive when they're learning new things. And the pre-built scavenger hunt was a big hit with my kiddos. And last but not least, supporting our English language learners. In our district, we're always looking for new and better ways to make sure that our students who are learning English are well supported. So the audiobooks, the read-alongs, the graphic novels, all of those are a super huge help for our students who are learning English. And that actually concludes my prepared remarks. And I don't know if there were any additional questions that popped into the chat, Judy.
I'm not seeing any right now, but please keep them coming if you have any other questions. Oh, there was a question about how do you enroll or unenroll students for class sets? Do you have that set up with the class roster?
Okay, so let me see if I can open up.
The answer is you can't. Once the assignments happened, you can't change who received it. I think the person who said that's aware. So if once an assignment's taken place, there's no way to change it.
But you can, Joe, you were saying before, because we have that campus that's doing a lot of the title assignments, the librarian or whoever it is that's doing the title assignment, they can unassign. Is that correct?
The way our assignment tool works, once an assignment has been issued, there's no way to change the assignment. And so it varies by class sets or an assignment that you're making yourself. So you're looking at through that tool is different than if you'd use the class sets. So there's two different things. And once the assignment has taken place, there's no way to change it. You can only edit the end date to stop it early.
Gotcha. So I have not used class sets a lot. At this point, my campuses have been working with their ELA departments on class sets. So I wish I had more info on that, but I know that Joe or whoever is your account rep would be happy to tell you more about that.
Yeah, essentially when you're purchasing through our class set model, class set licensing, you want to be sure, who you're assigning those to. And once the assignment's made, it's set. And there's no adding or removing students from that assignment.
Okay. So I do see a question in the chat. Does it work with Schoology? Let me do a screen share again really quickly. Okay, so my little controls are in the way. There we go. All right. So for any particular book that I'm looking to add to my LMS, like we use It's Learning, I know Schoology is one of the big ones in Canvas. You're just grabbing this URL right here. You can plug that into basically anywhere. You can turn this into a QR code, and that could be something that you've got within your physical campus. If you're dropping it into an LMS, really you're just grabbing this URL. You can also, it doesn't have to be a specific book. It could be the entire collection. So grabbing this URL up here and sharing that in my LMS, that's going to allow a student to jump right into this full collection. Of course, you can always do just the main URL, but hopefully the kiddos already know the soraapp.com. And if they're on, say, an iPad, then it should work the same way. that whatever the URL that you've placed in here, it should pop them over into the Sora app. As long as they're signed in, it should take them straight to this page.
Great. Any other questions, or are we ready for the raffle? Is there an easy way that you are notified if there is a new, I'm guessing a new book? Deanne, do you want to clarify that? A new book to be added on reserve. So are you referring to new titles that come out? We do send out emails updating whenever there's new titles, and we do have sales and promotions so you can see when new books are coming out or when your favorite title is going to be on sale.
And then if the question was like notifying if you had a book that was on hold that's now available, due to FERPA, Overdrive can't have our student list. So like they don't have our student email addresses. So when we do our training with the students, we remind them that as they put books on hold, they just need to make a habit of each time they go into the Sora app, they want to go over to their holds page. And if it's depending on your setup, it'll either show as it's ready or it'll automatically check out. Ours, it's set to give them 2 days of ready hold before it skips them and moves on to the next student. So, I mean, we want them in the app all the time anyway, so I don't mind that they don't get a notification. It would be great if there was a way to notify the kiddos, but to be honest, with elementary school kids, they're not checking any emails anyway. So having a hold notice go to a student email address for our elementary kiddos, it wouldn't work anyway. So we've done just a lot of training on making sure that they're going to their shelf and double checking if any of their holds are available.
Yeah, so she also expanded on that and said, if a kid reserves a book that you've run out of licenses for.
Oh yeah, so I get emails pretty much every day that tell me that I'm about to run out of licenses. Like it'll create a cart in my marketplace saying, you know, these are books where you have 5 checkouts or less, or you're within 1 month of that title expiring. So I'll go into that cart, and in some cases the popularity has waned and I'm not going to rebuy that title. But in most cases, I'm rebuying copies of that book.
Any other questions? Okay, well then, I think we're ready for our raffle. Lisa, do you want to pick a number between 1 and 45?
All right, so my random number generator says number 20.
Number 20, okay. And the lucky winner is Candle Pierce. Are you still on?
Yeah.
Yay, congratulations. Well, I will be in touch with you via email so I can ship you your Galaxy tablet. But everybody else, if you have any other questions, feel free to stay on. Oh, I see one just came through. Can you transfer items you already own into Sora? So if you have titles from another public or another digital platform, you can transfer them into Sora. We just have to work with the publishers to get them transferred. So you'll just need to work with your account manager to get those moved over for you. Any other questions? Lots of congratulations, Candle.
Way to go, Candle.
Okay, well, I will stay on for a few more minutes. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to ask. And thank you everybody for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it and got some good takeaways to try at your own school or district.